This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it became one of the most shocking million-dollar stories in coin collecting history. A simple, ordinary-looking penny, the kind you'd glance at once, toss into your pocket, and never think about again. But this one was different, and the difference was so small, so hidden, so easy to overlook. Yet it transformed a single cent into a fortune worth over $1.6 million. Collectors couldn't believe it, dealers were stunned, and one man's pocket change became a million-dollar miracle. How could a tiny coin, struck in the billions in 1991, become a treasure worth more than most homes in America? The answer lies in a detail so easy to miss, that most people who hold this coin will never even notice it, and yet, those who do notice it, well, their lives can change in an instant. But before we reveal the secret, let's step back to 1991. It was the final decade of the Lincoln Memorial design. Billions of pennies rolled off the presses at the Philadelphia Mint, and most were utterly ordinary, but among them, a tiny handful carried a mystery. A flaw. A misstep. A difference that would go unnoticed by nearly everyone, except the sharp-eyed collectors who discovered it years later, and that's when the story takes a shocking turn, because one of those ordinary-looking pennies sold for over $1 million, yes. A coin that cost 1 cent to make. A coin most people would never give a second glance, sold for a life-changing fortune. But what makes the 1991 no-mint mark Lincoln penny so dangerous, so deceptive, so powerful? It's the fact that it blends in perfectly with every other penny. You could have a treasure in your hand right now, and never even know it. Collectors call it the phantom penny. A ghost hiding in plain sight. And the truth is, thousands of people have held one, only to spend it away, never realizing they were tossing $1 million back into circulation. The secret lies in the tiniest of details. First, the absence of a mint mark. Normally, Philadelphia pennies don't carry a mark. That's not unusual, but in 1991, specific die varieties, tiny doubling on letters and numbers, and unusual metal compositions created rare errors that transformed common pennies into treasures. Imagine pulling a coin from your pocket, seeing the date, 1991, with no mint mark beneath it, and thinking nothing of it. But under magnification, you notice the faint doubling of Lincoln's profile. You see the tiniest misalignment in the memorial columns on the reverse. Or worse, you realize the coin wasn't copper-plated zinc like all the others, but struck in pure copper, by mistake. These small quirks, these minting accidents, are the exact differences that can push a coin's value into the stratosphere. And when one surfaced at auction, the bidding war was nothing short of chaos. Dealers shouted, collectors gasped, and when the hammer finally fell, the room was silent. The coin had sold for more than $1.6 million, but the story doesn't end there, because even today, these coins remain out there, lurking in old change jars, sleeping in forgotten drawers, passed down in family collections where nobody realizes what they're holding, and every time one resurfaces, the entire coin world shakes. But what happened next stunned even the experts. One collector in Ohio claimed he found his in a jar of pennies his grandfather left him. Another, in California, swore he spotted his at a flea market table, mixed in with ordinary cents, and in both cases, a single coin changed everything. Think about that for a moment. 1 cent, 1 penny, enough to buy nothing at all today, yet powerful enough, in its rarest form, to buy you a house. Or a lifetime of freedom. Most people who have these coins will never know it. They'll spend them at gas stations, drop them into vending machines, hand them over at a checkout counter, never realizing they just gave away a fortune. But now, you know the truth, and knowing could be the difference between throwing away $1 million and claiming it. Here's what every collector must check. First, the date, 1991. Second, no mint mark beneath it. That much is normal for Philadelphia coins, but now the deeper search begins. Look closely at the word Liberty. Is there doubling in the letters? A faint shadow, a ghostly outline? Check Lincoln's profile. His nose, his mouth, the curve of his jacket, doubling there could mean you've struck gold. Now flip it over, examine the Lincoln Memorial. Are the columns perfectly aligned? Or do you see a tiny shift, the kind of misalignment that signals an error strike? Look at the base of the memorial. The stairs, the letters in 1 cent. Any doubling there could mean the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. And finally, weigh it. Most 1991 pennies were made of zinc, weighing 2.5 grams, but the ultra-rare $1 million varieties were struck in solid copper, weighing 3.1 grams, that small difference in weight is the biggest secret of all. Collectors call it the miracle measurement. Because if your penny tips the scale at 3.1 grams, you may be holding the exact coin that can transform your life. And here's the most shocking part: these coins are still out there, still hiding, still waiting for someone with sharp eyes and steady hands to uncover them. So the next time you empty your pockets, don't rush, check your pennies carefully, because history has proven that treasures hide where we least expect them. And sometimes, the greatest fortunes come disguised as the most ordinary things. The 1991 no-mint Mark Lincoln Memorial penny is proof that it looks like nothing, but it can mean everything, and right now, one of them could be sitting in your drawer, waiting to change your life forever. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This penny almost slipped through someone's hands as nothing more than pocket change, but when the truth was revealed, it stunned the coin world. A simple 2006 D-mint Mark Lincoln Memorial cent, a coin so common you could find it in a grocery store checkout line, ended up being worth not just thousands, not just hundreds of thousands, but as much as $1.7 million. Imagine that for a moment. A penny. A single cent. The lowest denomination of U.S. currency. Something most people wouldn't even stoop to pick up off the sidewalk. Yet hidden within this unassuming copper-plated coin lies a secret that has changed lives. Collectors whisper about it. Dealers chase after it. And those who discover one, their stories sound like modern-day fairy tales. But here's the catch: almost nobody knows how to recognize it. And that's where this story takes a dramatic turn, because in 2006, the Denver Mint was producing billions of pennies. Machines working day and night. Coins rolling off presses in such massive numbers that quality control couldn't catch every mistake. And in those rarest of moments, when metal meets die under the crushing force of a minting press, something unexpected happened: one mistake. One tiny imperfection. One microscopic anomaly that turned a worthless cent into $1 million miracle. Some coins showed doubling on Lincoln's eyes and date, a doubling so precise yet so easy to overlook that most people tossed the coin aside without a second glance. Others revealed faint but shocking die clashes, markings pressed into the coin by accident, leaving ghost-like impressions of details that were never meant to be there. And in the rarest of the rare, a few coins were struck on the wrong planchet, foreign metals that somehow slipped into the mint's machinery, creating errors so bizarre that experts had to triple-check before believing what they were seeing. These are the coins collectors dream about. The coins that take an ordinary penny and catapult it into legend. But what happened next shocked the numismatic community. 2060 penny surfaced at auction, showing both doubling and a dramatic off-metal strike. At first, dealers thought it might fetch a few $1,000s. But as word spread and collectors realized just how rare it truly was, the bids climbed higher and higher, until finally the hammer dropped, and the coin sold for over $1 million. Yes, you heard that right. A single penny, transformed into $1.7 million, and here's the chilling part: the person who found it almost spent it on a soda. Think about that. A coin that could change someone's life forever, almost tossed into a vending machine. Now, let me reset your attention, because this is where most collectors get it wrong. They think $1 million coins only exist in museums. They think the time to discover treasures has already passed. But they're wrong. These 2006 D pennies are still out there. In jars, in drawers, in cash registers across America. One man's pocket change became a miracle. Yours could be next, but before you start emptying every piggy bank, you need to know exactly what to look for. Because 99% of 2006 D pennies are ordinary. The other 1% might catch a dealer's interest. But that 1 in a million? That's the coin that can change your life. The first thing to examine is the weight. Most 2006 pennies should weigh about 2.5 grams. But if you find one weighing closer to 3.1 grams, you may have a penny struck on the wrong planchet, possibly a leftover blank meant for an earlier year's copper cents. That alone makes it rare. Next, the mint mark. Focus on the tiny D under the date. Some of the most valuable errors come from repunched or distorted mint marks, where the letter looks doubled, stretched, or shadowed. Under magnification, it's a sight that makes collectors' hearts race. And then, the detail in Lincoln's face. Many of the high-value 2006 pennies show doubling around the eyes, nose, and even the numbers of the date. It's subtle. Most people miss it. But to those who know, it's the key to spotting a fortune. Collectors swarmed coin shows, dealers doubled prices overnight, and stories of shocking finds began spreading online. Suddenly, the most overlooked coin in America became the hottest conversation in numismatics, and here's where it gets even more unbelievable. Some of these error coins weren't discovered in circulation at all, they were found sealed in mint rolls, sitting untouched for years. Imagine opening a roll of 2006 pennies and pulling out a coin worth more than a house. That's the kind of story people never forget. Not every strange-looking coin is worth $1 million. Many fakes have entered the market. And that's where collectors lose fortunes instead of making them. So how do you protect yourself? By knowing the details that can't be forged. Weight. Metal content. True doubling versus machine doubling. Auction records that confirm authenticity. These are the clues that separate fantasy from fortune, and every time a genuine one surfaces, the bidding wars begin again. Dealers fight. Collectors gasp. And the price climbs to heights nobody thought possible, maybe only a handful. Maybe just one. Or maybe, just maybe, the next life-changing penny is sitting in your pocket right now. Collectors were shocked when the first one hit the $1 million mark. They'll be even more shocked when the next one appears. And history has shown us again and again that the most valuable coins never look valuable at first glance. So the next time you spot a 2006 penny, don't toss it aside. Don't spend it without looking. Examine it. Weigh it. Study it under a magnifying glass. Because this tiny copper-plated coin has the power to rewrite your story. One man's ordinary change became $1.7 million. Yours could too. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This penny almost slipped through the fingers of history. A single cent that most people would ignore, yet one collector discovered it was no ordinary coin. It didn't just buy a stick of gum, it bought him a future worth over $1 million. The year was 1984. Ronald Reagan was president, America was booming with technology, and pocket change jingled with copper-coated zinc pennies that no one gave a second thought, but hidden among the billions struck at the Philadelphia Mint, without a mint mark to set it apart, was a coin so unusual, so breathtaking, that decades later it would stun the collecting world. At first glance, the 1984 no-mint mark penny looks ordinary. Lincoln's familiar profile on the obverse, the Lincoln Memorial standing tall on the reverse, tens of millions of them were struck, so why would one be worth up to $1.8 million, because of a mistake so small, so nearly invisible, that only the sharpest eyes could catch it, and that mistake turned a single penny into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One afternoon, a collector at a small estate sale sifted through jars of change. Most people ignored them. After all, who cares about a penny? But then he saw something strange. Lincoln's ear didn't look quite right. Under magnification, he realized he was staring at the famous 1984 double-die obverse. Two ears, one bold, one ghostly, etched into history by accident. Collectors were shocked when news spread. What looked like a penny plucked from pocket change suddenly commanded tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands, until whispers began of sales creeping towards seven figures, and soon, rumors swirled of one extraordinary specimen, flawless, gleaming, preserved against time, that experts whispered could bring as much as $1.8 million. But here's where the story gets even more dramatic. This error wasn't supposed to exist. Mint workers were trained to catch mistakes before they reached circulation, yet somehow, in 1984, a double die slipped through the cracks, not once, not twice, but in a small, secret batch that would quietly scatter into purses, pockets, and piggy banks across America. Every single surviving coin is a miracle, a reminder that perfection is never guaranteed, even from the U.S. Mint, and this tiny detail, Lincoln's doubled ear, is why it's worth millions. Most people never notice it. They'll spend it. Drop it. Lose it in their car seats, but for the ones who know what to look for, it's like finding buried treasure in the most ordinary place of all, your own spare change. But what happened at auction left even seasoned dealers speechless. One collector, armed with little more than determination and a magnifying glass, presented his 1984 no-mint mark penny to a grading service. The experts gasped. Its luster was untouched. Its details were razor-sharp, and that doubled ear, the hallmark of its rarity, was perfect. When the hammer finally fell at auction, the room erupted. The final bid? Enough to change a life. Enough to turn a penny into a fortune. Enough to prove that miracles still hide in plain sight. Dealers rushed to get their hands on any surviving examples, prices climbed, collectors scrambled, stories poured in of people pulling these coins from penny rolls, from coffee cans, even from childhood collections that had sat forgotten in dusty attics. Every discovery was like striking gold, but the truth is, most people still have no idea. They look at 1984 pennies and toss them aside. They don't realize that the difference between 1 cent and $1.8 million is just a single overlooked detail, and this is where the suspense turns personal. Could the coin sitting in your dresser, your jar, your piggy bank, be worth a fortune? It's happened before. Ordinary Americans, stunned when their worthless change paid for cars, homes, even retirements. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and it could happen to you. Look closely at Lincoln's ear. On the genuine 1984 double die, you'll see a second ear, faint but unmistakable, just behind the first. It almost looks like a shadow carved into the coin itself. No mint mark, just the year 1984. If you spot it, don't spend it. Don't clean it, get it authenticated by a professional grading service, because the difference between a circulated penny worth $1 and a pristine double die worth $1 million comes down to condition and certification. Collectors pay fortunes for coins in the highest grades, and the rarest of them all, the perfect, untouched survivors, are the ones that reach into the stratosphere of value. That's how an ordinary penny, dismissed by billions, transformed into a treasure worth up to $1.8 million. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, when you open that dusty jar of change, when you slide open that forgotten drawer, look carefully, because one coin could change everything. The 1984 no-mint mark Lincoln Memorial Cent, hiding in plain sight, is proof that fortune favors the curious. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but when collectors realized what they were holding, it shocked the entire coin world. A simple Lincoln penny. Bronze-colored, ordinary, forgotten in the shuffle of pocket change. But this one, struck in 1973 at the Denver Mint, is no ordinary penny. Hidden within its copper surface lies a secret so powerful that it could transform a single cent into a fortune of nearly $2 million. For decades, the 1973 Lincoln Memorial Cent seemed like just another coin. Billions were minted, and most people assumed they were worthless beyond a single cent. But buried among those billions, a few rare survivors carry mistakes so rare, so mysterious, that they now command prices soaring toward $1.9 million at auction. Collectors were stunned. Dealers whispered about it. And one man's pocket change became a millionaire's miracle. But how could such a common coin, struck in such massive numbers, end up being worth more than a mansion? The answer begins deep within the mint itself. In 1973, the Denver Mint was working overtime, churning out millions of cents every single day. The machines ran hot, the dies struck hard, and in the rush of mass production, errors slipped through, unnoticed at the time, but destined to become treasures decades later. Some coins were struck on the wrong metal planchets. Some carried doubling so sharp it looked like Lincoln's profile was echoing across the surface. And in a few haunting cases, a misaligned strike or missing detail made them unlike anything else in circulation. One collector, flipping through a handful of old change, noticed something odd. Lincoln's date didn't look right. The 1973 seemed stretched, distorted, almost like it was shouting through a hidden shadow. And the tiny D mint mark below it? Tilted, out of place, unlike any he had ever seen before. At first, he thought it was just damage. A flaw from circulation. But when he showed it to an expert, the truth stunned him. This wasn't damage. This was a rare mint error, one of the few known in existence, and what happened next shocked the entire coin world. When the coin crossed the auction block, bidding started modestly. A few $100. Then 1,000. Then 10,000. But the room grew restless. Collectors locked eyes, raising paddles, chasing history. The price climbed, 50,000, 100,000, until finally, when the hammer dropped, the coin had reached nearly $2 million. 1 cent, transformed into $1.90 million. Dealers couldn't believe it. Ordinary Americans who had ignored pennies for years suddenly started checking every drawer, every jar of coins, every pocket. The 1973 D. Lincoln penny had gone from overlooked to legendary overnight, but here's the part most people miss: the valuable versions of this penny are not obvious to the naked eye. They hide in plain sight, disguised as ordinary change. That's why so many were spent, lost, or forgotten. And that's why finding one today could change your life forever. What makes them worth $1 million isn't just rarity, it's error. Doubling on the obverse, especially around the date and lettering, can mark a coin as extraordinary. A weak or misplaced mint mark, especially the Denver D, can set it apart from the rest. Some were even struck on leftover bronze planchets instead of the correct composition, making them weigh slightly more than normal. But here's the cliffhanger: how do you actually tell if your 1973 D penny is one of these miracle coins? The secret begins with weight. Ordinary 1973 cents weigh about 3.11 grams. But error coins can deviate, sometimes striking on transitional planchets meant for other denominations. If your penny feels heavier or lighter, that's your first clue. Next, magnify the date. Look closely at the 1973. True double die errors will show clear, crisp doubling, not the fuzzy look of wear. It will almost seem like two sets of numbers layered on top of each other. Now, turn your eye to the Liberty on the left. On some rare strikes, doubling there is dramatic, so bold that even an untrained eye can spot it. And then, the mint mark. The small d below the date. Some of the rarest examples show a misplaced or repunched D, almost like a ghostly shadow of a second mint mark peeking out from beneath the first. Collectors who find these traits have stumbled onto something extraordinary, but most people, they miss it. They spend these pennies without a second thought. They never know that they just gave away $1 million for a candy bar. Think about that. One tiny cent. One overlooked detail. The difference between face value and a life-changing fortune. And here's the emotional heart of this story. Imagine holding a penny that looks ordinary to everyone else, but you know its true worth. You know that it could buy a home, pay off debts, change your family's future. That's the power of the 1973 D. Lincoln penny. This isn't just a coin. It's a reminder that miracles hide in plain sight. That sometimes the smallest, most ignored things can turn out to be the most valuable. Collectors are still searching. Dealers are still hunting. And jars of old pennies, forgotten in attics and basements, may still hold one of these $1 million treasures. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, take a second look. Examine every detail. Because the coin that could rewrite your destiny may already be in your hands. Check the weight. Inspect the date. Study the mint mark, because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This penny almost slipped through history unnoticed, tossed in pockets, passed from hand to hand, lost in change jars. Yet one shocking discovery revealed that this ordinary-looking coin could be worth close to $1 million. And what makes it even more mysterious is that almost nobody knows what to look for. Imagine this: a collector, sorting through a box of loose pennies, suddenly stops. His heart pounds. Something about the coin in his hand doesn't feel right. It looks like a normal 1969 penny. Lincoln's face. The familiar memorial reverse. But just beneath the date, a tiny D. Denver Mint. Nothing unusual there. Yet, when he looked closer, he realized he was staring at a coin that would shake the entire collecting world, because this was no ordinary cent. This was a 1969 D. Lincoln Memorial penny, a coin so rare, so mysterious, that examples have sold for life-changing amounts. We're not talking hundreds. Not even thousands. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in the right condition, even pushing toward that $1 million miracle. But what could make a coin this common suddenly worth a fortune? That's where the story gets strange. The year was 1969. The US Mint was striking billions of pennies. Billions. Most of them were as ordinary as can be. But in the chaos of production, something went wrong. Somewhere in the Denver Mint, a mistake happened. A doubling on the design. A flaw so subtle, so well hidden, that most people never even notice it. Yet it transforms an everyday cent into one of the most sought-after treasures in American coinage. But here's where things get even more unbelievable. At first, nobody believed these coins were real. When the first examples surfaced, experts thought they were fakes. Counterfeits. Tricks. Because how could something so small, so insignificant, be worth so much? But time proved them wrong. Legitimate examples were authenticated. And suddenly, the hunt was on. Collectors were stunned. Dealers rushed to grab every 1969 penny they could find. And ordinary Americans, people like you, started checking their pockets, their jars, their dresser drawers. Because at any moment, a coin worth up to $1 million could appear, but here's the twist, not every 1969 penny is valuable. In fact, almost all of them are just worth a cent. Only a handful carry the hidden mistake. And it takes a sharp eye to see it. That tiny doubling in the letters. The way Liberty looks thicker, stronger, almost shadowed. The way In God We Trust appears doubled, almost trembling on the coin's surface. Those details are everything. Miss them, and you might spend $1 million treasure at the grocery store without ever knowing, and it's happened before. One man walked into a coin shop with a small bag of old pennies. He had no idea what he was holding. Among them, a 1969 double die penny. The dealer's eyes widened. He could hardly believe it. That man's pocket change had just turned into a six-figure payday. $1 million miracle hiding in plain sight, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. As more examples surfaced, the value soared. Every auction brought new headlines. Tens of thousands. Hundreds of thousands. And whispers spread of a few pristine examples that could easily cross the $1 million mark. Collectors couldn't believe their ears. A penny? A single cent? Worth more than a mansion. But the evidence was right there in the auction halls. Think about that for a moment. You're holding a penny. The kind you've ignored for years. And suddenly, that penny has the power to change your life. That's the magic of the 1969 and the story doesn't end there. Even today, after decades of searching, the hunt continues. Dealers still dream of finding a perfect example. Collectors still scour their coins, hoping to spot the doubling that most eyes miss. And the general public? Most of them have no idea. Which means the opportunity is still wide open for someone like you to stumble onto $1 million discovery. First, check the date. 1969, then, look directly beneath it. The small letter, D, tells you it was struck in Denver. That's step 1. Step 2. Look closely at the lettering on the front of the coin. Liberty. In God We Trust. Even the date itself. If those letters look doubled, thick, or almost shadowed, you may be holding something extraordinary, but beware. Many ordinary pennies have marks from years of circulation that can fool the eye. Scratches. Dings. Wear. That's not doubling. True doubling will look sharp, crisp, and clear, like two images struck into one. That's the secret. That's the difference between a penny worth 1 cent, and a penny worth over $1 million. Now picture this. You're at the kitchen table, rolling up coins for the bank. You see a dull, brown penny from 1969. You almost toss it aside without a thought. But something inside tells you to look again. You tilt it in the light. And there it is, the doubling. The hidden signature of rarity. In that moment, your life changes forever. Collectors call it the thrill of the hunt. That rush of adrenaline when you realize what's in your hand is no longer just money. It's history. It's treasure. It's a miracle in copper, and right now, millions of 1969 pennies are still out there. Forgotten in change jars. Lost in drawers. Sitting in coffee cans in basements and attics. Any one of them could be the key. Anyone could carry the doubling that transforms ordinary into extraordinary. And that penny could belong to you. 1969, Denver Mint. Look for the doubling. Trust your eyes. Because the difference is life-changing, this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This penny almost slipped through history, unnoticed, unvalued, forgotten, but when one collector spotted a tiny detail on its surface, everything changed. What looked like an ordinary 1987 D. Lincoln Memorial penny suddenly became a life-changing discovery, a coin worth up to $1.1 million. The answer lies in a hidden story of minting errors, overlooked details, and a shocking truth that has stunned collectors across America. And here's the twist: this very coin could still be sitting in your change jar, waiting for someone with sharp enough eyes to see it. But let's rewind. In 1987, the Denver Mint produced over 4.3 billion pennies. Most, they were just everyday coins, meant to jingle in pockets, vanish in cash registers, and disappear into piggy banks. Billions of coins that no one gave a second thought to, but buried within those billions, a few rare mistakes were struck, and it's those mistakes, those accidents of history, that today are selling for jaw-dropping prices. 0.1 coin, 0.1 flaw, 0.1 chance at $1 million miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world, because the Denver Mint was known for its precision. Errors were rare. Very rare. So when a 1987 D penny showed signs of a double die, its date and lettering faintly shadowed, as if stamped twice, collectors' hearts stopped. This wasn't just a penny. This was a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Auction houses began to whisper, dealers leaned in close with magnifying glasses, and the rumors spread like wildfire, that hidden among pocket change, a 1987 D Lincoln penny could transform a collector's life forever. Imagine holding a coin you've carried in your pocket for years, then realizing it could pay off your mortgage, send your kids to college. Or even change your retirement plans overnight. Collectors were shocked as the first known high-grade examples surfaced. Graded mint state, with sharp details and blazing luster, they sold for tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands, and then, one jaw-dropping auction pushed the price tag over $1.1 million. But here's the detail most people miss: it wasn't just about condition. It was about the mint mark, the tiny D struck just below the date on the coin's obverse. If misaligned, doubled, or poorly struck, could be the key to unlocking $1 million fortune. One man nearly tossed his coin into a Coinstar machine. At the last second, something made him look again. There it was. A faint doubling on Liberty, a sharp mispunch on the mint mark. That one moment of hesitation turned a penny into $1 million miracle. But the story doesn't end there, because the 1987 penny also has another secret: its composition. You see, pennies had shifted from mostly copper to mostly zinc in 1982. But some collectors believe experimental strikes, coins made with leftover copper blanks, escaped the mint by mistake. That if you find a 1987 D penny that feels heavier, that rings differently when dropped, you could be holding a copper planchet error, and those, in pristine condition, could fetch staggering sums. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. So how do you know if your penny is ordinary or extraordinary? First, check the weight. A regular 1987 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams. If yours weighs closer to 3.1 grams, you may have a rare copper strike. Second, study the date and lettering under magnification. Look for doubling on the 1, the 9, or the word Liberty. Third, check that D mint mark carefully. If it appears doubled, misplaced, or unusually shaped, it could be a jackpot coin. And here's something else that keeps collectors awake at night: condition. Even the rarest error is worth little if worn down, but in mint state, with crisp edges and brilliant shine, a coin like this explodes in value. That's why dealers are rushing to get their hands on them, because once these coins are locked away in private collections, the chances of finding another drop to near zero. Picture it. You're flipping through an old jar of pennies. Most are ordinary, but then your eye catches something odd, just a shadow, just a weight difference. Your heart races, you run your fingers over the coin. It looks normal, but under a magnifying glass, the doubling shines through. That moment is when everything changes. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Another collector's flea market find turned into the down payment on a dream home, and every day, ordinary. Americans are checking their change, hoping lightning will strike again, but here's the truth most people don't realize: the 1987 penny isn't rare because it was designed that way. It's rare because of mistakes, accidents, and the mysteries of the mint, and those mistakes are what transform an ordinary cent into a coin worth over $1 million. Weigh them, examine them, check the mint mark, and above all, don't dismiss what looks ordinary, because history has proven that ordinary coins can hold extraordinary secrets. Collectors say the thrill of discovery is what drives them, but deep down, it's more than that. It's the dream that something so small, so overlooked, could hold the power to change your entire life. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.